Melodie, great to have you on the podcast. How are you today?
I am wonderful. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, I'm fired up. Let's dive right in. So, for the audience that is just meeting you for the first time, tell them a little bit about you and then give us that overview of Max Retail, and then we'll dive in.
Sure. I'm Melodie Baan, co-founder and CEO at Max Retail. My background is first and foremost as a distributor, which is a nice name for a young girl in her 20s that drove across the country selling fashion to independent retailers. And then the later part of my career was the last 9 years owning an independent retail store. And that really emphasized the problem of unsold excess inventory on a personal level. And now for the last 6, 7 years, I've been building Max Retail, which is a platform that helps independent retailers get their costs back on past season inventory by easily selling it online.
I love when entrepreneurs are also the end user. It's like it becomes part of your superpowers, right? Because
Totally.
anything that you're building for these independent retailers, if you were not going to use it yourself, you probably weren't going to build it for them, which I love. I think I need to ask this too. This is a ADHD moment, but what songs were you jamming out to back in the day when you were doing your cross country trips to all these retailers?
A lot of Pink, a lot of Sia.
Okay.
I would
Okay.
say, you have to play a lot of things that are keeping your energy high, a lot of Pitbull, Kesha. You're thinking 12 to 14-hour days on the road. And it definitely makes you a warrior, but it also gives you insight into so many different towns, businesses, and many a restaurant. I must say, I can probably suggest a place to eat just about anywhere.
Let's talk about some of the big problems that these independent retailers face today. Well, let's first start out with, obviously there was a trickle-down effect of all these problems that you were facing with your store.
Yep.
What did those initial problems, what were they that led to Max Retail?
Sure, I think the problem I saw first when I was a rep driving store to store is I could not enter a store and show them a collection without them pointing out to me what didn't sell from the season before. And so unsold inventory is always a problem. It's where your cash flow is tied up. And if you don't sell one collection well, then you don't have the money to bring in the next delivery, right? Something that's really important to know is our customers, they're purchasing their inventory for their stores at least 6 months ahead of time. And you have orders that you have to take in on a schedule. But in order for that machine to really run smoothly, it means you're selling through the inventory you have. And so, back when I was doing this in stores, 2009, 10, 11, 12, helping independent retailers, I was facilitating exchanges of inventory between my authorized retailers because brands don't want to take back inventory. The retailers bought it, it's a hot potato. And so I needed to help my customers, and that's how I was doing it. It was manual, it wasn't scalable, but it was making a big impact. And then when I opened my retail store in 2012, now suddenly I had a sale rack and no one was helping me. And that's when I realized it wasn't $2,000 of unsold inventory, it was $100,000 a year of unsold inventory. And that truly just drove me nuts. But in 2016, when I finally cried uncle and said, I've got to try to solve this problem and start working through it, I really just used Steve Blank's lean startup and working through the day in the life of the customer. And as an independent retailer, you start your store, you fill it with merchandise, and you have bad buys. You have things that aren't going to sell well. It's part of figuring out who your customer is. And even as you get really great at that, you're still going to have bad buys. You can't hit a perfect target every single season. And so, one of the problems that independent retailers have is the stuff that doesn't sell. But the other thing is figuring out what they should be buying. That's another big problem retailers have because it's a bet. It is like gambling. You walk into a trade show, it's like walking into a casino. And so what we do at Max Retail is we just try to help de-risk it and really guarantee that that bet is going to really be a good safe bet, right? And even if it's not, we're the parachute plan, right, to help get your money back.
And you absolutely love it because for anyone that's just listening, go watch the video. You're smiling the whole time that you're saying everything right now. This is why I love the video component to this is I get to see that passion and that excitement when you're talking about what you're doing. Now, you've probably just over the years had so many conversations with customers and figuring out also, from your own experience, but also what they wanted. Through those conversations, though, how do you How do you determine what's like just them venting versus what's something that needs to be added to roadmap because it's actually, because it's not that everything they're saying is not something that could be added to roadmap.
Mhm.
Um, it's just, there's a fine line. So how do you decide what gets added, what maybe gets shelved for later?
Yeah, that's really the biggest challenge of having a startup is prioritization. And I think for me, the most meaningful thing that we can do for our clients is put more money in their bank accounts. And so I would say early on, there was a lot of things that retailers wanted our platform to do or maybe be easier, but I only had so many engineers and I had to focus on launching more sales channels, more online exposure where this inventory could be sold. Because I said, listen, maybe even if they have to click a few extra buttons here, if I'm putting more money in their bank account month after month, they're going to hang in there. And then we reached a point where, we really needed to build point of sale integrations, right? Because keeping their inventory up to date on our system was just, too laborious in store. So that's when it shifted and we're like, okay, we cannot wait anymore. If we enable them to easily list from their point of sale, they're going to list more frequently and they're not going to have to worry about keeping it up to date in store, so they won't be stressed out either. That's one of the advantages of Max Retail is you can keep the inventory on the floor in case a customer walks in and is going to buy it off the sale rack. And at the same time, you can expose it through our network of sales channels. And so that's a really big advantage. If you look at alternatives like liquidation, you're getting rid of it for pennies on the dollar. And if you look at a consignment store, you're sending it out of your store again for pennies on the dollar. Even the Real, which takes some inventory, you're sending it out of your store and you're taking whatever payout they give you. So Max Retail is really the only solution in the market right now that enables you to get your wholesale cost back on past season inventory while still keeping it in the store in case that sale comes along for you sooner than we can sell it. So that's where I would say that shifting tide of, hey, this is a pain point, but money's more important. Okay, now this pain is greater for managing inventory so that they can list more and make more. And now we look at it like, okay, how can we help our retailers understand their inventory? Because what we're hearing now is, Mel, I'm having a hard time realizing when it's aged, when it's old. How can you help me know what I should list?
Kind of continuing on that a little bit, I wanted to hear from you, like, if you could give one piece of advice to these struggling retailers right now, like, what would that end up being?
I would say if a retailer is struggling, it's because they do not have good turnover of their inventory. So the easiest way you can think of this is like, if I buy this cup and I buy it for $10 today and I sell it for $20 tomorrow, what am I going to do? I'm going to take my initial $10 investment and I'm going to buy another, and I pocketed $10 profit. That's a turn. Now, if I do this 10 days in a row, I'm going to sell another one. After 10 days, I've made $90, $100 profit off of my $10 investment. But if I buy this on day one for $10, but I don't sell it day 2, or 3, or 5, or 6, or 7, or 8, or 9, and on day 10, I sell it for 20. Did I really win? That's what turnover is. So a struggling retailer has poor turnover, which means that they need to see that inventory and they need to know how many days it hasn't sold, know when to call it, list it on Max, get their cost out so that they can place another bet, get a different mug in, get a glass, get something else that you're going to sell. But that is what causes retailers to struggle. The only thing that's going to put a retailer out of business is their inventory and its inability to move.
Super interesting. It's so like playing off of that, how often, like, do you have to have some, like, not frustrating conversations, but how clear is that to the retailers that you work with? Or is there's a need to be kind of some shaping to the conversation of you also offering some education to them, why they're struggling? Like, or is it mainly, like, do you try to avoid that, I guess is what I'm saying? Like, do you try to also kind of take a consultative approach, or are you hoping that, like, hey, we're plug and play, use us?
I would say that the retailers that are most successful on Max Retail understand that concept of turn, and they're listing inventory proactively. They're running their inventory reports. They're seeing what has had a poor sell-through. They're getting it listed. They're cashing out. I would say our poor performers, right? Our users on Max Retail that are making less are the ones that hold onto their inventory for longer periods of time before they list it. So for instance, a proactive retailer is understanding that, hey, that jacket has not sold, right? We're in the fall season. They're going to list it in October when Max Retail is going to be able to get the most options for it to be sold as fast as possible. Whereas a retailer who waits till February or March to list that coat, right? It might be the same coat, but it's being listed 4 or 5 months later. There's less of an opportunity to sell it. The rest of the country's heating up again. Everybody's into spring fashion. So we actually see healthy retailers make even more and retailers who don't get it make less. But that doesn't mean that has to stay that way, right? And so we do have a success team. They are talking to our customers who are maybe listing less frequently, and they are bringing them on the bandwagon and say, hey, listen, Max Mondays, list something. Make it a habit to go through your store and analyze your inventory. And that's why on our roadmap is more tooling to make that even easier for our customers. It is super important because it's hard. You're like an octopus. You're doing a lot of things in your store. And stopping to analyze your inventory, as soon as a customer walks in, you're going to focus on the customer. So the easier Max Retail can make it for our sellers to understand the inventory, the sooner they'll be able to take action on it and ultimately increase their turns.
Some unique challenges for some of these retailers that you work with, right? Because they're not these massive companies that have this huge staff. Like more than likely, they're very small teams, right? For the majority of them, or the owner is spending a ton of time, even in the retail spot, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would say our average customer has between 2 and 8 employees in store with them.
Yeah, and I'm sure even like when you look at the mix of the employees, there's probably some where you're also having some younger folks, right, that are working within the retail. Yeah, it's so you said the octopus example. That's very true. They have to wear every single hat. So any way that you can help them is definitely appreciated, I'm sure, across the board. I wanted to hear a little bit about, by the way, Max Monday. I caught that. Awesome. Love that you said that. So cool. Is that a term you use a lot?
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Max Monday has really been something because we have realized that sellers who list weekly make 4 times as much as sellers who list monthly. And it's just the way the algorithms work. When inventory is being sold online, freshness factor, it's a thing, right? So if you list a ton of inventory once a month, it's going to be old on that site within a week. But if you're consistent with listing on Max Retail, then your inventory is always getting great placement online. And so the more we can educate our customers and help them understand, hey, listen, every week, do this. And Max Mondays is, it's an easy day of the week. We call Mondays like admin day in retail, right? Like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, things pick up. Friday, Saturday are really important. A lot of small businesses are closed on Sunday. So Max Monday is a great day to get your act together with your inventory.
I would like to hear your thoughts on that a little bit. Like I see so many of the smaller retailers. You can kind of tell which ones are probably like when you go in and there's a lot of stuff, like they're not pushing much merchandise. But I also look at some of the ones that aren't doing great, and the hours are honestly like how often do you come across, this is kind of just separate, where I'm sure it takes you next to no time to see, just by looking at 2 retailers, right, who is going to be successful and who is probably going to be in that struggle bucket. How often does like issues like when they're open and who they're bringing into the fold, and you said in that 2 to 8 employees, how often are that issues there putting them into the struggling bucket compared to the other way?
It's more the planning of inventory than the hours of operation and the employees. Listen to how crazy this is. So I had to make a shift when I was a retailer, going from working in my business to working on my business. Now, when you are the owner and you are selecting the inventory, you can do the hero sales. Hero sales is the owner with the charismatic personality that can sell anything to anyone who walks in the door. But that's not really a sustainable business. But that's the majority of small independent retail stores. It's the owner, right? And so when you shift to working on your business, that's when you have to have the right inventory in the right amount at the right time to sell fast. There is a whole science to this. You think that it might be the personality of the people, but actually it's very formulaic. Planners work on a category level. A planner can look at your data and see that in the month of February, you need X amount of sweaters, X amount of woven dresses, X amount of knit dresses, X amount of boots, X amount of sandals, okay? And this is on a dollar value, not even a unit value. And if you have that correct allocation on order, Jared, you would be floored if you saw how you can hit your numbers. Because we lose money 2 ways in retail. having too much of the inventory that's not selling and having not enough of what is. And proper planning outdoes hours of operation or even employees every day of the week.
When you were running your retail store, what other areas too were very frustrating for you in building this? Obviously, you had the ones that you decided to focus on with this business, but were there other areas that you're also hoping that maybe these are ones that you're not going to do, but like you hope get solved? Like, are there any areas that you don't foresee pursuing, but you hope they get solved?
Well, I would say one that I think we might pursue one day because I hear it so much is staffing. Second to inventory is being well staffed. And so it really is a struggle for an independent retailer to have great employees in store, right? Long term. And we see this. So when there's I call it having rocks and rock stars. Your rocks are the people who are never going to leave you. They're very consistent. Maybe they're good at one thing. They might not be good at everything, but they're really great at like admin, or maybe one's really great at styling, but she's not great at admin. Maybe one's just good at content, right? And then you have rock stars. These are people who can be your managers, who can be really excellent, but they want to go on to a bigger career, right? And always having the right balance of rocks and rock stars on your team is what it takes to have an effective retail business. And if you know how to motivate both of them, you can run a successful team. But what I see oftentimes is a business owner who is just taking on way too much responsibility, right? They're not passing enough off to their rocks and rock stars, or maybe they're missing a really critical rock that they need, or they're missing a rock star that they should be acknowledging, hey, I need them right now, even though they might fly the coop one day. So I would say there's opportunity for us to, whether it's helping with in-store training, maybe it's helping with, fashion schools across the country to place them into independent retail stores in their local area. I don't really know what it looks like, Jared, but I know in the next 5 years, if I could help my customers be well staffed, or maybe even it's know how to hire, know what to look out for, I believe that right there would make their lives a lot better.
This is our first time speaking, right, Melody? But I have to tell you, I love the vibe of just like, I want to just help our customer. Like, however that looks, like we have our core, but I like how you answered it. It wasn't, we might do it, but like at the end of the day, we're going to do something here that provides value to them just to help solve their problems. I love that. I wanna do like quick little lightning round with you now too, as we wrap this up. So I had a few things I wanted to ask, and I'm just gonna kind of fire them away. And we'll get started, if you're cool with that. If you could only wear one brand for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Byron Lars.
That was fast. Okay. What's your, I can't believe I paid this much fashion purchase?
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I ever
You don't
have
have to say the price.
I don't have guilt on clothing, but I do have guilt on like this really ridiculous couch that I bought one time. It was like a leopard chase lounge, and I was like, what was I thinking?
Okay. I mean, you were vibing with it. It sounds like. Let's do this. Where's this one? What's one item you regret not buying when it was on sale recently?
Oh my gosh. Well, there were these really cool pair of like boots, right? And I wish I would have bought them, but by the time I went back to them, they didn't have my size. Very, very cool boots. But as a Floridian girl, you don't really have too much of a use for boots, hence the hesitation, but nothing haunts us like the things we didn't buy.
December, January, you could probably get away with boots in Florida, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah,
That,
I passed my window. I'm going to look for those boots. I'm going to give it 6 months, and then I'm pretty sure I'll find them on Poshmark or eBay. So I'm going to give it time and keep looking.
I love it. If you could shop one store's entire clearance section for free, which store would it be?
Probably Periwinkle in Delray Beach. They have a very good sale room.
Okay. What's one clothing item you have way too many of, but keep buying anyway?
Oh, wow. Probably jackets. I really love jackets. I can't get enough blazers.
I feel like you can never have enough blazers, though. Like, that's something that like you'll always find another use case for. All right, last two questions. What's a fashion trend you wish would make a comeback?
Well, I hear it's coming back this fall, sequin. I'm really into sequins. And so I did see at Market last week a ton of those. And so I'm pretty excited that my dream might come true.
I love it. Okay. Sequin, especially for Florida with the sun, I feel like it probably pops, right?
I love it.
Last question. What's a fashion trend you hope never returns?
Oh, it's here. Overalls. What is happening? I've seen multiple people wearing overalls. I'm like, where are we? And what are we doing?
What do you dislike more? The overalls that are both on, or the one where it's like the one that's just hanging down, where one strap's not done?
Yeah, it's like a real thing. Probably the one shoulder is more offensive than the two shoulder.
And the one shoulder, I think, is more popular right now,
It's
too.
wild.
I see a lot of people. Far too much. Far too much. Yeah, I'm with you. Melody, I want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast and also having some fun with me at the end here, answering these questions, and so fast. But really appreciate you, and we'll continue to be fans of Max Retail, cheering from the sidelines, and definitely keep us up to date on any announcements.
Thank you so much. Great to be here. Take care.